Harrison had everything: money, power, a life most people could only dream of. But there was one thing he didn't have: a child. Aduke had nothing. No family, no home, no hope. Until one deal changed her life forever. It was supposed to be simple. No love, no attachments, just a baby. But what happens when feelings start to grow? When a man who never believed in love begins to feel something he can't explain? Will he fight it? Or will he let love win? Sit back and let's find out in this amazing story of power, sacrifice, and a deal that could change everything. Once upon a time, in the heart of Lagos, there lived a man named Harrison Obiora. He had everything one could ask for, but there was one thing missing, the one thing that truly mattered to him. As Harrison sat in his grand office, staring out through the towering glass windows, he had spent years turning Obiora Group Limited into a powerhouse in oil, real estate, and tech. People called him brilliant. Others called him ruthless. He didn't care. Business was all that mattered. Deals, power, control. His phone buzzed on the desk, but he ignored it. It was always the same. Another multi-million naira deal. Another opportunity to expand. But tonight, his mind was somewhere else. He stood, tucking his hands into his pockets, his face unreadable. At 42, he had built an empire. Yet something kept eating at him. Legacy. Who would inherit everything he had worked for? Who would carry his name? A knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. His personal assistant, Jenny, stepped in cautiously. "Sir, the investors from Dubai are waiting on the line." Harrison didn't turn. "Tell them to wait." Jenny hesitated. Harrison never postponed business calls. "Sir?" "I said, tell them to wait." His voice was firm. Jenny nodded and stepped out. Harrison exhaled, rubbing his chin. Marriage was out of the question. Love was an illusion, a weakness that made men foolish. He had watched powerful men crumble because of it. He would not be one of them. But a child? That was different. He didn't need a wife. He didn't need romance. He needed an heir. But how could he get one without the complications of a relationship? And in that moment, an idea was born. One that would change everything. Aduke Silva was the only daughter of her parents. But fate had been cruel. She had just lost both of them. With nothing left for her in Ibadan, she packed her few belongings and moved to Lagos, hoping to start a new life and console herself from the loss. But life in Lagos was very difficult. The city welcomed her with empty promises. She knocked on doors, begged for jobs, but every rejection chipped away at her spirit. With nowhere to go, she found shelter in an unfinished building, in a part of the city people avoided at night. The cold, untarred floor became her bed. Her wrapper the only blanket she had. Hunger became a familiar pain. Some nights, she could ignore it. Other nights, it was unbearable. She had stretched the last of her money, eating one meal every 2 days, but now, she had nothing left. One evening, weak and exhausted, she sat by the roadside near a buka, watching people eat steaming plates of food. Her stomach tightened at the sight. She dropped her head, blinking back tears. "Excuse me, sister." A deep voice interrupted her thoughts. She looked up. An older man with kind eyes stood before her, holding a bottle of water and a loaf of bread. "You've been sitting here since morning," he said softly. "Take this." Her pride fought against her need. But her body was weak, and her hands reached for the food before she could think twice. "Thank you, sir," she whispered. The man nodded. God never forgets his own. He turned and walked away. Tears slipped down her cheeks as she tore the bread. It was dry, but to her, it tasted like a feast. She drank the water quickly, her throat burning with relief. She had reached rock bottom. She needed a miracle, and she had no idea that miracle was just around the corner. Harrison Obiora rarely made mistakes. His world was calculated, precise. But that night, as he left an exclusive business dinner at a luxury hotel, his driver took a wrong turn. "Sir, the road is blocked," the driver explained. "There's heavy traffic ahead. Let me find another way." Harrison barely acknowledged him, scrolling through his phone, reviewing the numbers from his latest deal. He only looked up when the road became bumpy. The streetlights were dimmer here, the shops smaller, the faces different from the world he knew. "Where are we?" he asked. his voice calm but firm. "I took a shortcut through the inner roads. We'll be back on the main route soon," the driver assured him. Harrison sighed, leaning back against the seat. But then, something caught his eye. A young woman sat alone by the roadside. She wasn't begging, but the hollow look in her eyes spoke louder than words. Her skin looked dull under the flickering streetlights, her clothes worn, but neatly kept. She clutched a bag tightly to her chest, as if it was the only thing she had left in the world. For reasons he couldn't explain, he felt the need to look twice. "Stop the car." The driver hesitated,